This is Karen with NewClevelandRadio.net, and it's time for Love Letters Live, live, however you want to pronounce that word. I always want to say live. I'm not sure why, but I
Either
apologize,
way.
Janet. But this is with Janet Gallin. And Janet, you have the most exciting guest today. So tell us who you're going to have on today.
Thank you. I would like to introduce my exciting guest and give you a tiny bit of background, which I always like doing. My guest is Liz Maguire. A few days ago, Liz, about a week ago, I guess, a little more, I got the most lovely email. And it was, she introduced herself and said, I'm such a fan of Love Letters Live. And, and then told me what she did. And it was just another bowl of catnip for me. And we're going to talk about what she does because there's a lot to say about Flea Market Love Letters. I couldn't get to her fast enough and ask her to join me. It's, again, one of the miracles of modern time that this woman who lives in Dublin, Ireland, not a neighbor physically, but now part of my life and someone I consider a friend, the connections you make these days are as deep as if you met at a party. So I'm introducing Liz Maguire of Flea Market Love Letters. And Liz, why don't you just say what that is, and then we'll start to talk about a lot of things.
Yeah, you'll have to slow me down. I really love talking about mail.
Me too.
the word kindred spirits. So I started Flea Market Love Letters. It, in its simplest form, is an online digital archive of vintage love letters. And I started the project officially in 2017, but I had been kind of collecting letters since I was in high school. So using them was a great way to fill my time when I was in between work for working from home and kind of, needing something. I'm not a knitter, but I needed something to keep my hands busy.
What first drew you to that? I mean, what made you think of collecting letters?
Sure.
I mean, I do it myself, so I understand it, but you're doing it on a whole, that's your project.
Well, so, and she always gets a name drop in the beginning when I tell this story. I was in high school and my mom gave me $20 at a flea market. And I grew up going to flea markets. And so this was not unusual. And she said, here's 20 bucks, kind of leave me alone. So I went off and I did my thing. And then I came back to her after I bought, I think 2 or 3 tchotchkes or something. And I came back and I was like, Mom, can I have more money? She was like, I just gave you 20 bucks. What do you need more money for? And I said, well, this guy has a box on his table. And so I dragged her over with me, and it was a shoebox basically. And it had a bunch of letters in it. And it said letters, I think it was $5 or $10. And I had nothing left. So my mom saw it as an opportunity. My kid likes to read. She's going to be home for the whole summer. $5, this will keep her busy for a few weeks. Great. So she gave over the cash. I came home. I had the box on my lap the whole way home. I was kind of opening them up, and they ended up being letters from the 1920s. So that was the first collection.
What were you looking for? What were you hoping to find?
That was the first collection of letters. So I had never really thought about collecting letters or even photographs. Everything before we came from, my family would have my mom collects a lot of jewelry. My dad collects a lot of books, and I would have collected, a little bit of both because that's how I was growing up.
Open-minded to whatever it brought once you got them.
Oh, certainly.
And
I carted them around, and I tried to get people to be interested in them. And the turns out that high schoolers aren't very interested in your binder full of vintage letters. So I loved them, but I never really had anything to do with them.
Did you ever have, I haven't, confession, no sense of history really.
Okay.
And yes, none. I must say all my growing up, I easily saw history as yesterday's news.
Okay.
Now, of course, I am fascinated with it because people are writing more compelling history. Okay. And I just read what was Splendid in the Vial about Churchill. I don't know if you've read that. And
I've heard of it, but yeah.
Oh, well, you should read it, both of you. because, and it was difficult to read because it was so detailed. I haven't heard from this author in a while. And I think, well, the last 10 years, he's just shut himself up in libraries. But as I'm reading it, I'm realizing that he's reading letters that people wrote. He's reading letters that everyone in the Churchill family wrote. And as far as accurate history, letters is it.
No,
And
I would have to agree.
yes, and I'm just wondering, if you have any plans with this to offer them as to anybody who might be writing a book on any particular subject. Are they mostly to do with love, or do you find a theme in the ones you have?
So I chose the name Flea Market Love Letters because the first series that I shared in 2017 was a series of love letters. It was between a young woman in England and basically her GI fiance from the States. And this isn't that first collection that I bought. This was bought years later, nearly 10 years later even. But that was a love letters series. So when I was sitting and I was thinking, I have all these letters, what do I want to do with them? That's where Flea Market Love Letters came from. So some of the letters I've shared are, partners, their husbands and wives, or boyfriends to girlfriends. And others are, sons to mothers and fathers. And the series that I'm talking about currently on the site and on the account is a World War I collection. That's two brothers writing to their family. So
Okay,
it's all love. It's just different kinds of love.
Oh, yeah. And by the way, let us say that about love letters, that in my experience in the 12, 13, 14, that I've been doing this, about 10% are romantic.
Mm-hmm.
And the others are definitely love letters. That is to say, letters that focus on somebody else's good qualities, not just the Christmas blast about what your family did this year. I mean, those are fine to send them, but they're, I don't think those are love letters. But you're sitting on a pot of gold historically. You just said World War II. Okay, I know that you'll figure out what to do with these. I mean, maybe you'll come out with your own book of a collection.
I would love to do something.
Pardon?
I would love to do something like that.
I've got an idea. We can talk later. Okay. So has it ever occurred to you, I don't even know if it's possible, to try to send any of these letters to the descendants of, I mean, that might be difficult unless you have some real identifying marks.
Sure. So one of the great things about letter collecting is that you have a first and last name and an address.
Could you have the envelope?
Yes. So oftentimes genealogists, when I started posting about this, I was interested in genealogy, but I don't consider myself a genealogist because genealogists are modern day detectives, and I can't hold a flame to that. But when I first started posting, that was one of the things. So I haven't actively sought out the families that I found the letters for. And my attitude on this changes pretty often. In the beginning, it was because I didn't understand genealogy. Then it came from a place where you never know how the letters got in. You know how they got into your possession, but you don't know how they were, how they left another person's possession. And I talk often about, just making sure that everything I do is handled with the utmost respect. So I'm surprised I haven't said it yet, but I don't make any money off of the project. Actually, I probably spend more than.
Same with Love Letters Live. I understand that. Yes.
So, but it's very important to me that that's transparent because these are other people's words and other people's stories.
Okay. Well, then I have another question though.
Yeah.
You got these things at a flea market and you're saying
Yep.
You don't know how they left the people who owned them. I'm guessing that they fell into the hands of a grandchild to whom these letters for some reason didn't mean too much. Maybe there was no one else to pass them down to in the family. I don't know. But they weren't going to burn them. They weren't going to throw them away. Somehow they felt that they should keep going. That's what I think.
Yeah,
so
I think that's a beautiful way.
Yes, like putting, Moses in the basket and putting these letters off somewhere where they will end up in someone's hands and having faith. I have some of these letters that I got, and I got them at a bookstore. I walked into a used bookstore and there was a bin of, and these were written closer to 1900. And I was stunned by the fact that they were as easily readable. And I see that behind you, you have those easily readable as the day they were written, which brings up a point that I want to make all the time. We think that we can spill our heart out into whatever platform or whatever we have on the computer. And it used to be we put our whole heart on those little square floppy disks. Do you remember those, or you're just too young to remember those?
I remember those.
Put them all on the floppy disk. Well, floppy disk, flush them. You can't access what's on there anymore. Same with VCRs. And the best storage system for what is in your heart is a letter.
It is.
Always accessible if you use good paper and good ink. So yes. So this changing technology, this skirts that whole issue.
Yeah, I think that's a beautiful way to put it. I have been getting a lot of messages recently. You know, the project gets picked up every couple months and people get very interested in it, and doing this 3 years. So it's, I love when I get a new reader who messages and they're like, when I looked at your page, I called my mom and I said, do you have Nana's letters? And she said, what do you want those for? And I asked her to mail them to me, because especially now with quarantine and with lockdowns all over the world, there are people who, they have not unlimited, but they have time on their hands. And archiving and curating a project like this is very time consuming.
I was
a lot of people are.
Yeah, I was the beneficiary of exactly what you're saying. I got a call from a woman I was friends with. We were college roommates our first year, so this was 1960. And we've stayed very close. She's heaven. Mona, I love her. And she writes to me after this pandemic started. She's home and she's got time and she's cleaning out closets, and wanted to know if I was still in touch with Joanne, our third roommate. Well, I had lost touch with Joanne, a girl I loved. We were good friends. I was a bridesmaid at her. But then we lost touch with her moving, and 50 years, no contact. She said, are you still in touch with Joanne? And I said, I haven't been. She said, well, I found a whole bunch of letters that she wrote to me and I want to give them back to her. I said, I'll find her. I spent 3 days. The CIA could learn from me. I spent 3 days and I found her. I don't even know how. I found some little tiny image and I knew it was her. 50 years later, she's still gorgeous. And anyway, we got in touch. She got her letters. Mona sent me the letters I wrote to her. And it was the point of found letters. It's always a portal to something stunning.
Absolutely.
Stunning. Friendships recap. My favorite, and then I'm going to ask you your favorite, is a woman who found a letter. Just the short version is, and she wanted to do a Love Letters Live with me. She tells me this story. She found a letter that was stuck somewhere in a back of a drawer.
Okay.
And never knew about it. Opens the letter, and it's a letter from her father's sweetheart to him. While he was married to someone else, they had a baby. And this letter had a picture of the birth announcement. The woman was now married to somebody else. Long story, interesting. And this woman finds this letter and says, my God, I've got a sister. Contacts the mother of this baby. They're all adults now. Contacts the mother of this baby. And the mother says, I've been waiting for your call all these years.
This is a novel, Janet.
I know. Anyway, she tells me the story. She figures a way to meet. She signs herself up. I'm not going to tell to her. And then she wants to do this with me. And I called her later that day. I said, you can't do this. I can't let you tell this story in all the detail because it's secret. This girl still doesn't know she's the biological. So we dropped it. But meanwhile, my friend has a wonderful relationship with the mother and newly found sister.
Oh, isn't that beautiful?
I mean, it gets even weirder and more beautiful. But what's your favorite? If you have one, or what's one that was
The most powerful letter I would say that I found is often you don't have photographs that come with these letters because they are upwards of 70 years old. They've been, they've been passed around. And about a year and a half ago, I was gifted a collection of letters, and I was gifted, I think it was 8 or 10. And the seller had kind of, they'd had them out on a table. They'd been purchased for me as a gift. And I was told, if you like them, we can get the rest of them, kind of, read them and see. And I am very much I'm not a hoarder, but when it comes to letters, if I know they have strays, I need the strays because I need it all to stay together. So I was reading this collection, and the seller had hinted that the gentleman who had written it was a love triangle, basically, and it was World War II, and one of the gentlemen had died. And so I was reading these letters, and knowing it was the first time where I knew kind of the fate about one of the writers, and it was one of the biggest times that I came up against, is what I'm doing ethical? Where does the line come? These are other people's personal stories. What do you include? What do you not include? Stuff like that. And so I went to my dad, who had got me the letters, and I said, I need the rest of them. I was like, I'm not going to enjoy it because it was emotional. There was more baggage than I'd had before. And I was just like, I need the rest of them. So we got the rest of them. Flash forward, I'm back in Ireland. I have them with me, and I'm going through them. And the last letter that I have from the gentleman who dies actually has his photo in it. And I didn't know that until I was kind of going through the process. So my process is I take them out, I photograph them, I type them as I go, and then I share them to the site and to the Instagram. And as I was going along this, I sort of open up this letter, and then sliced into the onion paper is just this little itty bitty soldier's picture. And it's the last letter I have from him. I don't suspect it's the last he wrote, because I had a reader actually who looked him up, and she says that if she's found him, he would have passed away in 1943, and this letter was from 1942. But the universe of it being the only photo I had, the last letter, what I knew happened, that's probably my most treasured, if I could treasure one.
It's hard to pick a most treasured or most favorite. I want to talk to you about handwriting.
Of course.
Because, handwriting is king. Everybody with a word processor has Lucida, Bright, and Helvetica. By the way, I just read from some designer, there was an article that, if you use Helvetica now, you've just got like the worst taste in the world. Right, nobody uses it. Well, I love it. But anyway, so handwriting, nobody has your handwriting.
True.
Nobody. And I don't know if you and Karen get letters once in a while from a friend, and the minute you look at the envelope, who that's from.
Yeah.
Right? You know who wrote that letter. So I see they're very clearly written behind you. Are they all in English, the ones you have?
So the letters, yes. And actually just over the summer, I did another project within Flea Market called The Diary. And that was a diary that I came by through, we were doing as a family, we were doing an estate clearance. And I inherited all of these papers, sort of, notebooks and things like that. And they were all written in German. And so I got those in 2011, 2012, maybe. And it was always beautiful. And it was the 1930s Austria. And I was always sort of like,
whoa.
It was a big period of time to decide to go public with it. So I went to, I actually made
more historical gold.
Yeah. So I made a friend through the Instagram account, and her name is Gret, and she's from Germany. And she and I got to talking. She was helping me with some projects. And I said, I have this diary that's entirely in German. And I was like, warning, it's Austria in the 1930s. So I was like, I don't know what's in there.
Right.
And so she offered to translate it. So I took a photograph of every page, sent her every page, and she typed up the diary. So it's a young girl named Charlotte. It's her childhood diary. It's written over 3 or 4 years. Charlotte would go on to move to California. She lived in Hollywood with her dad. He was an opera, not a composer, but
she was probably my next door neighbor. Do you remember her name?
Charlotte Anderson was her maiden name.
Okay, no, all right. Always worth
Yeah.
asking. Okay.
So I loved it because when we inherited all of her stuff, we basically taking care of the estate, we got all of her papers. And her high school yearbook was there. And my mom was the one who was running the kind of the making sure everything for the estate worked well. And she called me downstairs. I was in high school and she was like, Liz, do you know Charlotte went to high school with Betty White? I was like, I did not know.
This is like my whole family upbringing. Okay, so what high school did she go to?
Beverly Hills High, I think.
Okay, so that's Beverly Hills. That's not exactly Hollywood, because I lived down the street from Hollywood. Doesn't matter. This isn't about me. Okay, so I have
I love it though. Universe.
another question. I know we're all. I mean, my connections with Karen here is just endless. Who knew? I have a question about you're doing other things, because I tend to be a total micromanager sometimes, and that is, have you ever, maybe you've done this, gotten in touch with law offices, estate lawyers, and funeral homes, and let them know that you are in the market for found letters?
So I haven't gone to that level. So the name for the project comes from me going to markets and kind of buying these up. But that's to say that, and I always forget to mention him. My mom always gets a lot of airtime, but my dad is the online sleuth. So there's a few times a year where I'll just start to get all of these emails from eBay, and they're all forwarded emails. And he's sort of like, he finds the most interesting sort of collections, but he really likes the bidding game and the stuff like that. He likes the letters as well. But so recently the collection has gone from a couple hundred that I had from flea markets to almost, I want to say 700 to 1,000 feels big, but it feels near, of letters across from the States and in Ireland.
I mean, that's fair to call yourself flea market forever, even if you get them in other methods, because that's how you started.
Yeah, thank you. A lot of people are like, you get them on eBay, and I'm like, eBay's a virtual flea market.
By the way, yeah, that's right. I didn't even think of that, but yes, so many ways. Okay, I know you'll do a lot. About handwriting. Just share a little story. One of my guests early on, when it doesn't matter, but in the beginning it was radio for several years, and one of my guests was looking for a recipe from her mother, who had died too young, and it was just, the relationship between my friend and her mother was just so close and so good and just beautiful. And anyway, her mother died, and she was looking for a chicken soup recipe, actually, and she couldn't find it. So she calls her sister and says, I can't find, mommy's recipe. And she said, well, I'll just send it to you. I mean, I have it. I've written it down. I can send you the recipe. She said, no, I need the index card. I need her handwriting. It has to be in her handwriting. And that handwriting brings people right in front of you again.
It does.
It just I find, yes. So when people get a copy of a found letter, I mean, the kind of gift that is. And about photographs, have you noticed, I mean, I've noticed this, when you give an old photograph to someone to look at, anything that happens there that you've noticed that the person does with that photograph?
Well, the example I'll use is when it's my mom, she always tells me what she's wearing.
Oh, okay. But, an old photograph, like, let's say, of your grandparents' generation, or some photograph of your grandparents at the beach I'll tell you what I see. Give somebody an old photograph, and the first thing they do is turn it over.
Oh, fair enough. This makes me think, where are they? You asked me to have some prezzies ready for you. I got some ready for you. This is how organized I am.
I think what people are looking for when they turn it over is something in handwriting. They're looking for a note about that event. They're looking for the heartbeat. Go ahead.
I'm just saying, as you're saying that, I'm listening, but I'm just saying, I'm flipping these over and I'm wondering, do we have an example? Got one here. I don't know, the background makes it hard. Yeah, the background's ruling it out.
You can describe.
It is a photograph of a woman standing in front of one of the old style TP motels. She's standing in the doorway of it, and it says Wigwam Motel, Sanborn, Calif, June 1953.
There's something about finding the handwriting. Okay.
It tells so much. I would totally agree. I hadn't even thought about that, about photographs. And that's the thing, as I collect photographs as well, it should have come right to the top.
Do you have an Instagram account? Is that worldwide?
We do. So it's me. The project is just at Flea Market Love Letters, all one word.
But are you posting the love letters themselves?
Yes. So
okay, I'll look at that.
Please do. Yeah. Right now we're doing the, I have them here beside me. I didn't realize the background would be as distracting as it is. But I have, right now I'm doing the World War I series, and it's very fitting, I think, because they are, we're post Armistice Day at this point, and we're kind of in the period between 1918 and 1919 where the brothers are talking about going back to their family home in New Mexico. And they are talking about a little thing called quarantine and the Spanish flu.
Oh, okay. So there you go, looping around.
Yeah.
Looping around. And the letters that people write today, you know, I did want to mention this because the letters that people write today are going to be this history in a relatively short time.
Yeah.
And as valuable. And I just want to say, and I'm sure you realize this, but to anybody listening, it is so important to use good paper and indelible ink. And I talk about this in my workshops. And yet when I wrote a letter to my niece, it got wet. It got wet because it was raining and the post, you know, and everything got washed off. I mean, the address was barely visible. The inside was just, and I did this on not good paper and not indelible ink. And she said, Aunt Janet, can you just write me that letter again? I could only read part of it, but I need to know. No, I couldn't write it again because I don't know what I said.
Yeah.
Which to another point, we live in an era of miracles. Take photographs of the letters that you send.
Yes.
Okay. Oh, I want to thank you for doing this with me today.
Oh, it's been such a treat. This is so fun.
Yes, this is so fun. And if there's any way we can kind of hook up and, you know, spread the word about what you do more, let's just be in touch.
Let's do. Yeah, I actually, before I hopped on here, I took a little video about kind of setting up to talk to you guys today. So that's up on the Instagram at the moment. And when our chat goes up, I'll share it. I have an email newsletter that you can sign up for on the Flea Market website. And that's just www.fleamarketloveletters.com. It's a handy little pop-up that comes up, and it's just once a month we send out a letter. All things letter collecting. I do a little bit of the collector's corner at the bottom with different articles about letters from the internet. I share blog posts, I share letters we're writing, and I share opportunities like Love Letters Live.
Thank you. And you're going to do a book someday about some kind of a history book?
I would love to. So the first project that I've done,
yes.
the first project that I've actually done ends tomorrow. 2 weeks ago, I launched a fundraiser for veterans. So we are currently fundraising for an organization called Hope for the Warriors. So we designed mugs and sweatshirts that said "Write More Letters." My partner's a graphic designer, so he did a little logo for me. And we made up some sweatshirts. So we've made about $200 through the sale of those, and through a Facebook fundraiser, we're close to 1,500.
Is this a 501c? I mean, is this something where people make donations and it's stacked?
Yes, yes.
Okay,
so
send me a link on this and then we can talk more, but let's just be in touch forever and see what we can do together in life.
Yeah, let's write letters, Janet. Let's write letters. Karen, you want to write some letters?
Karen actually did a wonderful letter to her mother several years after her mother had passed away.
Oh.
I want to tell you, writing letters to the deceased is a whole other joy, but that's not what we're talking about today.
Yeah.
But yes.
I wish we could talk forever. This has been such a treat. Thank you so much.
We'll do it more. We can't do FaceTime, can we, if you're in Ireland and I'm in California?
Well, we can if I give you some time to do your crossword in the morning. We can do a FaceTime in the morning.
Oh, can we?
Yeah, we can do it through Facebook.
Oh, I'll learn how to do that. Okay, thank you, dear. Okay, I'm going to say goodbye for now, and I'll be just talking to you later.
Oh, I can't wait. I do have your address. So, Karen, I'll get yours, and believe me, There will be letters in the post.
For me too. Yes,
Yes,
Karen and I have sent each other things in the post. Yes, it's wonderful. Okay,
this is so
because
fun. All right,
if
ladies.
something like that shows up on your otherwise rather dismal mail pile these days, it's like getting a bag of diamonds. All right, darling. Goodbye. Talk to you later.
Goodbye, ladies. Thank you.
Thank you.